Hello everyone, we are back with the latest chapter of solo farming in tower. Last video, Theo took Zerath to a junk shop. She was not certain what kind of merchant skills the cat would show her there, and she was definitely not expecting him to demand discounts again and again, even though the items were already 50% off. Surprisingly, Theo's method to aggressively demand discounts worked, and Zerath was impressed as well as stupefied by his idiotic but effective technique. She was about to let him off the hook as there was nothing she could gather against him, but then she suddenly recognized the straw hat he bought from the junk shop as an item that was listed as stolen from a landlord, and she couldn't believe it. Back in the cave, Sejun was collecting seeds from the carrot flowers, as having the ever-growing baby bear with them was putting stress on their food reserves. Then he decides to prepare breakfast, and when he harvests tomatoes for the soup, his skill harvest increases to level 4 and gives him an additional attribute that allows him to rarely harvest crops whose level is 1 more than what it should be. He is happy, and then he prepares a light soup for the mother rabbit, who is pregnant again. Then he goes outside using the manual elevator he has created, thanks to the mother bear's help, who carried a giant stone to the cave's entrance so that he could tie a rope around it. There he meets the bear cub and gives him his breakfast, which is the roasted potatoes from last night, and the bear cub likes them so much that he plants one of them into the soil so that more grow from it. Sejun and the rabbits burst out laughing as they told him about farming, but it turned out that he still had much to learn as he plants the fish in soil too. The next day, outside the cave, the baby crimson bear stands on its hind paws menacingly as it gears to face the black warrior rabbit, who has his wooden hammer drawn out. The rabbit is serious as he goes ahead to deal a strike on the bear cub, but the bear is not serious at all and takes it more like a game than training. He rushes towards the black warrior rabbit, who jumps up to dodge his charge and then quickly lands 3 strikes on the bear's back in the time it takes for him to stand up. The rabbit was satisfied with the result and let its guard down for a second, during which the bear cub attacked him with his paw. But all he did was catch the black warrior rabbit and hug him while licking him. They both laugh, and the black rabbit tries to free himself from his big friend's grip. They get back to their play fighting again, and Sejun looks at them while relaxing and wonders if they are actually training or just fooling around. The chubby cart rabbit comes to him with tomato and honey juice in the carrot cups, and Sejun picks up a cup, thanking the cart rabbit as he was just feeling thirsty. The rabbit returns his greetings, and as Sejun takes the first sip, he notices the poison honeybees coming out of their nest. He thinks that the bees are going out on their daily patrol, and as he tells them to take care, he is surprised when he notices the queen honeybee also coming out. She looks very serious as she carries a small, round object wrapped in onion leaves and flies straight towards Sejun. He expresses his confusion upon seeing the queen bee out and asks her what she was doing outside her hive as she was busy spawning. The bee says something and then gently and gracefully places the small round object in Sejun's palms, and he asks what it was. The queen bee shakes her head as she starts flying away, and so do the other bees with her. The queen bee flies away back to the cave without looking back, and as she enters the cave, Sejun decides to check what the thing is that he was just given. He begins to unpeel the round object and is surprised by what he finds inside. There was a poison honeybee cocoon, and it was not just an ordinary cocoon but that of the poison bee queen. The caterpillar had accidentally ingested royal jelly, and when it became a cocoon, it was destined to evolve into a queen bee and not just an ordinary worker bee. There were 10 days left for the cocoon to hatch, and the queen bee that would emerge from it would recognize the first target it saw as its owner. Sejun is still in awe as he realizes what he is holding in his hand. He realizes that it has not been long since the bee he knew became the queen, and that is why the power of her hive is not strong. His 2 rabbit friends are also intently listening to him talk about the details. Sejun knows that if a new queen is born into a beehive that is not yet ready to split, it will mean that the already weak strength of the hive will be halved. And he realizes that the queen bee gave him the cocoon for that reason only. Sejun thinks that this must be a precious child to the queen bee, and he gets up suddenly, making the rabbit on his shoulder fall to the ground. Sejun exclaims in joy, thinking that this was a brilliant opportunity for him. He decides to work hard so that the cocoon can hatch into a wonderful queen poison honeybee, and he cheers up the future queen inside the cocoon. He tells the bee that he is looking forward to the day they meet for the first time. On the other hand, Theo has just returned from his sales trip on the lower floors to the 99th floor. As he laughs and sings on his way back to the cave through the forest, he celebrates that he is almost back and that it is almost time for him to be rewarded. Theo is happy and lost in dreams as he says that now Sejun will kneel down before him and he will enjoy the authority of the CEO. But those happy dreams of the cat merchant are interrupted when he sees the crimson bear cub outside the cave. He is shocked when he realizes that it was the fearsome giant crimson bear and snaps out at the baby, asking him who he was and what he was doing in front of the cave. The confused baby bear turns around to look at who is shouting, and it has Sejun's bag in his mouth, and seeing that gives Theo the biggest shock. He screams that it was Sejun's bag and wonders what it was doing outside the cave, as the confused bear still has no idea. Then Theo suddenly becomes horrified as he asks the bear cub if he killed Sejun. He loses all hope, falls to his knees, damning it all, and curses himself. He says that his ominous thoughts always prove to be true, and he would have liked them to be wrong this time. But then Theo's expressions change from grief to rage, and he says that he should have seen this coming as he felt something was off ever since going into the 38th floor. As he takes out his claws, the cat merchant says that he felt like running as soon as possible, and now he knows why. But then he screams at the bear that he has still not used up all his time as the sales cat yet, with tears in his eyes. Blinded by his rage, Theo jumps at the bear cub so that he can claim revenge for losing the privilege of sitting on Sejun's lap, and the bear cub is shocked by what is happening. But as Theo is just about to reach the bear cub, Sejun starts coming out of the cave, and he is pleasantly surprised to see his sales cat. Theo is also greatly surprised, and he makes a soft landing after ignoring the baby bear, then darts towards Sejun, jumping over his face as he was trying to get out of the cave, and he barely holds on to the rope somehow. The cat merchant is in full panic mode as he examines the human's face, asking him if he was alright or if the bear cub had taken a bite out of him. Sejun is confused and asks Theo what was wrong, but the cat merchant has already moved down to his legs and is examining his knees now. He asks Sejun if his knees were fine, and then asks him how he was getting out of the cave, and Sejun tells him to stop moving because he could fall at this rate. But Theo is not yet done with his questions, and he asks Sejun what the deal was with the giant crimson bear cub. Sejun has had enough of the cat's questions, and he tells him to ask them one by one. Then he comes out of the cave and explains everything to his sales cat. He introduces the crimson bear cub to the cat merchant and says that their relationship began when the bear cub fell into the cave, and they became friends quickly. Now, he has made a deal with the bear's mom, where she protects the surrounding areas for him, and in return, he gives the cub food and honey. Theo still finds it hard to believe, and even his rabbit friends tell him that Sejun was telling the truth. But now the cat merchant is a bit relieved after hearing the full story, and he tells Sejun that he fears that he was eaten by the giant crimson bear. Sejun also finds his doubts understandable because even the cub was big enough to kill and eat a human. But then he suddenly realizes that it was too ambiguous to call the baby bear simply a cub all the time, and he wants to give him a name for convenience's sake. Sejun takes Theo's help to ask the bear cub for its name, and when the cat talks with the bear, he translates its answer for the human, saying that the bear cub says that it was just a bear cub and did not know anything about a name. Sejun thinks in that case he can give the bear cub a temporary name, and he has something very good in his mind. The bear cub is really excited to get his new name, and as he eagerly waits, Theo asks Sejun what he was thinking to name it. He laughs smugly as he says that he has an amazing name in mind and then proceeds to name the bear cub Kyung. Sejun is really happy to declare that name because it was based on what the baby bear cries out every time, and he feels that it was the perfect name to give it to him. Only Sejun thinks that, because while the bear cub is still confused, neither Theo nor the two rabbits find it good, and the fat cart rabbit's face says that it is a terrible name. Theo comes up front and shows a thumbs down to Sejun, saying that he has no sense in naming people, and he is shocked. He begins to coddle the baby bear, asking if he does not like his new name. He gives him chin rubs and head pats as he calls him by his new name, Kyung, and asks him what he thinks. But before the bear cub has any chance to reply, Sejun begins to tickle him until he is rolling on the floor laughing and has nothing to say. The rabbits and Theo realize that this was Sejun's trick to convince the bear cub into accepting his new name, and it seems that he worked. But Theo is frustrated by all the attention Kyung is receiving, and he climbs on Sejun's head as he tells him to stop tickling the bear cub and look at what he has. He opens his bundle and hands him the pouch of tower coins, saying that he completed all the missions this time too, and sold everything as well. Sejun is pleased to learn that, and then Theo asks him how much time he would get to be the sales cat for these results. Sejun compliments the cat merchant, telling him that he did a great job. As for his duration as the sales cat, he says that combining the leftover time from before, he has around 38 hours to be in his favorite post. As the rabbits start climbing on their bear friend, Theo celebrates that he has a lot of time to enjoy the luxuries of being a sales cat. He tells Sejun that he is going to use them all up now and asks him to give him the churu. Sejun gladly holds the cat in his lap and starts feeding him the churu with his hand. Theo is pleased and says that he really did a great job this time. He is fully enjoying his favorite snacks while in Sejun's lap. But then suddenly, the baby bear pushes him to the side and licks the churu instead. Theo realizes this and gives a condescending look to the bear cub before asking what it was thinking it was doing. And Quing has no idea. The cat attacks him out of nowhere and then begins shouting at him, saying how dare he put his tongue on his churu and how dare he step into Sejun's lap when he was there. He is furious and tells the bear cub he will never forgive him, ready to attack him again. But Sejun somehow holds him back in position. But Quing is hurt and is sobbing about the pain. And then suddenly, he cries so loudly that everyone near him is stunned. The forest starts shaking moments after it, and as Sejun realizes what is going to happen, he is terrified. But there is not much time for him to do that, as suddenly the mother bear jumps out of the forest with great speed and power, and Sejun and Theo can only stare at her with their mouths gaping as she prepares to land right next to them. The mama bear lands in front of them, and the shockwave from that knocks Sejun off his feet. The mother bear looks menacing and furious as she takes her baby under her cover, looking at the reason he was crying. And in front of her are Theo, Sejun, and the rabbits, and as Quing tells his scary mom about what just happened, she stares down at Theo. Now the cat merchant has his tail between his legs, and he is terrified out of his wits, while Sejun also realizes that this situation is as bad as it can get. With this, the video ends. Theo is in for a rough time, and even though nothing had happened to Sejun, it seems the cat's ominous sense was right after all. What will the mother bear do to the cat who made her baby cry? And who will mediate to stop the fight? Also, what will happen when the cocoon of the queen honeybee hatches and the new queen comes out of it? Let us find out the answers to these questions in the next video. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and a comment, and also subscribe to our channel for more videos like this.